All right, it's 5:32. I want to respect everybody's time, so I'm going to get started. My name is Rebecca Lopez Chris. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Policy and Outreach for the City of Philadelphia's Department of Revenue. I'm joined tonight by a couple of our amazing staff members. Vicki Riley's here. She does a lot of our outreach. Michelle Bailey, if you've ever talked to us on social media, she's the person you're talking to. Joseph Bamet is behind, is the guy who set up this meeting. He's the man behind the scenes who makes it all happen. And I'm joined today by my illustrious co-host, Monica Barr. Monica is actually going to be running through the demo of the city's new tax system when we get to that portion of the presentation. So you get to hear her and possibly see her, I'm not sure. I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for coming and thank you for listening to us. And we're excited to have the opportunity to present to you. To all of the folks who maybe got the notice of this event through a partner, I want to thank all of those partners. You know, we tried to cast a wide net when we sent out information about this event. So thank you to all of those partners who keep sharing the good word. A point of housekeeping, you if you have questions, please feel free to ask them through the chat. We'll do our best to answer them as we go, and there'll also be other, revenue staff will be monitoring that, and maybe when it's appropriate, being able to break through, or we can save them to the end. We'll just play it by ear. This isn't a super large group, so it's not like we can't kind of roll with it. Okay. All right, Monica, do you mind hitting the next slide? All right, so we already talked about, wait, go back real quick. So we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff tonight. Again, welcome. We're super excited that you're here talking to us during happy hour. I hope you all, I've got my water, but maybe you've got something more exciting. We're going to talk tonight about what is the Philadelphia Tax Center? Like, what is this project? What are we doing over here? We're going to get a demo. We'll get a look at what the product looks like. And we're also going to talk about how you can help as an awesome taxpayer and as a member of your particular business community, and what businesses should do and how to be prepared for this change. So, okay, next slide. Okay, so just for a point of background, we are replacing the city's tax system of record. So, I mean, if you've ever filed and paid your taxes online, as all of you should be, you know that the interface, it's very functional, but it's maybe not the experience that we want taxpayers to have. So we are currently in the process of replacing our 35-year-old mainframe database system with a brand spanking new cloud-based 21st century system. I have a water here. This is pretty exciting. This is huge because it is going to revolutionize the way that you do business, or the way that you file and pay your taxes in Philadelphia. It's a two-phase project, and we'll show you what taxes are in each phase. The first phase launches November 1st. That is very, very soon. The other thing that I just want to make clear that I'm sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. One thing that I just want to make clear, if you use the Pennsylvania MyPath system, this is a very similar system. We're using the same vendor as the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to replace our system. We're basically going to be using very similar systems. So if you feel comfortable and have experience and have paid taxes with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you already have a leg up, because that's the system that we're moving to. I mean, of course, it's configured and it's configured to the Philadelphia taxes, but like the verification process, all that stuff's going to be the same, and it'll probably feel a little bit the same, although I hope it reads a little bit better. Okay, so here's the project timeline. In phase 1, November 1st of this year, the 7 major business taxes plus the school income tax are going to be launched or will be available on the Philadelphia Tax Center. So that's business income and receipts tax, net profits, wage and earnings, school income tax, liquor tax, the beverage tax, and tobacco tax. Phase 2 includes real estate, use and occupancy. You can see it all on the screen there. So it will be a little bit awkward because we're for a short period of time, for about a year, we're going to be using 2 systems. So if you file BERT for someone or for yourself, and you also have to file use and occupancy, you're actually going to use 2 systems, but that ultimately will go away. But in the short term, this is what we've got. Also, when you if you log in and pay your real estate tax electronically, you'll use the old system when you do that, once you get your bills, or when you do that early next year. Okay, so as part of this project, like I mentioned, we have got this fancy new internal system. It's the new tax system of record, but as part of that is a brand new public facing website called the Philadelphia Tax Center. This is I think it's very beautiful. I mean, I don't know, if I know it's a website and people don't always get super excited about a website, but when you work in government, you get really excited about good websites. So you'll see it's mobile enabled. You can use this on your mobile phone. You'll be able to use it on a tablet. Like if you are, let's say, a tax professional who works with businesses and you just want to show up to that business and have a tablet, like you can do that. So this is pretty exciting. I think we're going to get into, Monica, we want to switch to the next screen real quick. At a very, very high level, I'm going to go through this, and Monica's actually going to switch to a demo of the actual product. Basically, once we go live November 1st, you will be able to file and pay all of those 8 major business taxes that I mentioned in a beautiful new system. You will be able to open and close accounts and request, you won't be able to request refunds necessarily for all tax types, but we'll get there. You'll also be able to send secure messages to our service representatives. You'll also, as a business, be able to assign an account, like managers to your account. So like if you have an accountant, or you have like legal services, or you work with a tax professional, or maybe just your bookkeeper, and you want to give them access to various parts of your business, you'll be able to do that. And also you'll be able to apply for payment agreements and tax credit programs totally online within the website. Monica, are you switching over to the other screen?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. All right. Let me get just a second while I get that up for all of you. All right. Hello. Can you see the Philadelphia Tax Center?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Okay, Rebecca, I'll hand it back to you to get started.
Oh, I already said everything. I was going to say.
Okay, great. So welcome, everybody. This is actually the Philadelphia Tax Center that we can walk through. It's exactly the same as what you all are going to see on November 1st. The only difference is that since it is not live yet, there's a little bubble at the top because I'm showing you a not live version. But we can walk through some of the features that I think you're really going to like. The first feature that I just wanted to show you, starting way up at the top here at the right, is the Spanish translation that we have this in. So before I get into the specifics of the features, we really wanted to highlight that topic. And Rebecca, I could hand it over to you to give a little more detail on how we did the Spanish translation.
Yeah, so I'm pretty proud of this because, up in the, if you just hit ver en español, the entire page is translated. This isn't Google Translate. We translated every one of the pages in this site. That will assist over 85% of language requests that we receive from taxpayers. The second most requested language is Mandarin, but Spanish far and away is the largest request. So if you work with folks who only speak Spanish or Spanish as a first language, we hope that this serves them well. If you have feedback on that, let me know. We're always trying to improve any of our language access stuff. So we're pretty excited about that. Monica, go ahead.
Great. So I'm going to put it back to English and just walk through some of the features that we have. The first thing that I'd like to highlight is what many of you are going to be doing if you pay many of the business taxes and the taxes that Rebecca highlighted as coming out in the Philadelphia Tax Center on November 1st. You're going to want to register as an existing taxpayer. And what you'll do is you'll create a username and a password. The great thing about this is that it makes it really easy. All the instructions you need are right here, as well as the different types of taxes that you'll be able to sign up with a username and password with. And the system just walks you right through, asks if you're a third-party tax professional, and other types of verification to verify your identity. The one thing that I want
to... So just to hop in there, which I think we haven't covered in the past, is that if you're a third-party tax professional, like you're a tax preparer, you can sign up for a username and password, and then basically, and Monica will show this more, you will request or receive access to your client's accounts at the level that they give you. So that's just a heads up if that's the situation that you're in.
Yeah, which is an excellent reason to sign up. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and just log in with a sample login. And we'll come back to the home page as well. Logging in, we have modern security standards for the account. But what I really want to show you is a couple of what we call dashboards that we have to make the experience easy for you to see, file, and pay your different tax types. So this sample account here, we have a couple of different tax types, and it's very clear. I can see what my balance is. I can see the addresses for each account, and I could change the address for each account. So if I wanted each of these different types of accounts to receive mail at a different address, I could update that as well. And it's incredibly easy to make a payment and to file your returns. One thing that I'd like to highlight about making a payment is that we have two options here. And we try to make it really easy to make a payment. So there's many links throughout the system that give you the option to pay your different accounts, because we know that's what folks want to get done. This is one of the easiest links. We have eCheck, which has no fee. And one thing that I really like about this software upgrade is that you'll be able to store your eCheck information in this system if you choose to. But if you choose to store your eCheck information, your bank account information, you can have payments automatically deducted from your account. So you don't have to worry about going in and making payments anymore. If that's a benefit to you, that option's now there. There is, of course, the option to make a credit card payment. The eCheck, paying with your bank account information, that is free, and that is always free. Paying with a credit card, there is a fee. The fee is not imposed by the Department of Revenue. The fee comes from, I believe, the credit card processing. Rebecca, if I'm getting that right.
Right, right, exactly. We don't keep that money. That goes to the credit card processor. That's what we've negotiated.
Yep. So just so everybody understands that. However, the eCheck option is always free. Okay. So going back, this quick summary is an excellent way to get started. I'm going to move us to more options and talk about some of the options that we have here. This gives you a lot of power over customizing your account the way that you want it to be and interacting with the Department of Revenue in a modern, secure way. So to touch on some of these, one feature that I really like is letters. So there's no more, letters getting lost in the mail, being delayed, whatever happens there. Now, any letter that gets sent to you in the mail by the Department of Revenue automatically shows up here in this letters section as well. And that means you can look up those letters electronically as soon as they're sent in the mail. So you don't have to wait for it to arrive to your address. I can pop one open. My computer is always a little slow with opening a PDF. So bear with me.
While that's loading, I'll also say that the default is that you go paperless. So if you want to continue to receive paper letters, you need to just update your preferences. I can't even tell you how many hundreds of millions of dollars the city of Philadelphia like spends on sending mail. So we just, that's one reason it's a good reason to go paperless, but also, you know, to go green and to save paper and save all that energy and delivery. Also,
Yeah.
one other note, if you've made your language preference Spanish, your letters will still come in English. The long-term plan is to eventually translate every letter that comes out of the system, but right now we're just not at that place. We have, though, we are in the process of rewriting every single letter that comes out of our department, and you'll notice a lot of new language in any of the letters that you get from us, and we're hopeful that they are clear and concise and tell you exactly what you need to do or give you just the exact right information without being unclear. So again, you ever have any like feedback, you can always reach back out to us and give it, you can hand it to me and I'll share my email address later in the presentation.
Thanks. So here we have a sample letter. Because it's a sample, it has that big and valid stamp on it, but otherwise, this is pretty similar to the letters you're going to receive from the Department of Revenue. One thing that I'd like to highlight is up here in the top right, there is a letter ID that starts with the letter L. That letter ID is going to be really helpful. If you actually receive like a physical letter in the mail, you can use that letter ID to look up any information about that letter. So if this letter is saying, hey, we need you to upload a W-2, you can type in that letter ID and it'll take you right to the place where you upload your W-2 for the right department. So that's just a part of the letters that I like to highlight because I think it's a useful feature.
Yeah, the other thing about letter IDs is if you call us and say, I got this random letter in the mail, I don't get it, what am I supposed to do? Which I hope does not happen because they are better, because they are so clearly written, but you know, or I don't agree with this letter, or I don't know what this is. That you can call our office and say, I have this letter, here's the letter ID, and the person who answers the phone is able to like look it up and know exactly what you're talking about and look at exactly the same letter that you have in your hand. So every one of those letter IDs is unique to you as the taxpayer. So we're hopeful that that like one, that they're better letters, and two, that you're much more able to serve you whenever you have to reach out to us.
Yep. And that's for the letters you get in the mail or letters that you look at electronically. The letter ID is always going to be there for you. So that's the letters portion. As you can see, of course, there's a payment and returns options here because we put it everywhere. That's the same as the payment and returns options you saw before. Another part that I'd like to highlight is messaging. So here in messaging, you can actually send a secure message to the Department of Revenue. So that means no more having to, send financial information via email, which we all know is not ideal in terms of security. Not only can you send a message, but you can make sure that that message gets to the right department. So here I could send a message about a specific account, but also if I had a message that I wanted to go to the refund unit, the returns unit, tax clearance, you see that now I have the option to get that message quickly directed to the right department. Okay. I'll go back. You'll be able to use this kind of similar to email in the sense like you'll be able to see messages that you received, old messages, you'll be able to search them as well. So you'll be able to kind of search your help correspondence through the Department of Revenue. And I think that's a really useful feature. Next, what I wanted to cover was something that Rebecca mentioned briefly, but here you can see there's a third-party access section. So here, if you're a third-party tax professional, this is where you can request permission to have access to your client's accounts. And that access is really customizable. So for example, you can request access to file returns and pay returns on your client's behalf. Or you can, you might just want view only access. And also, of course, the client is the one who gets to make the decision about what their third-party tax professionals can see and not see. So similarly, if you're a taxpayer, you can go in here, and if your accountant has made a request, for example, to see your account, you could go ahead and verify what level of permission you want them to have. So it's all completely in your control as to what you'd want your accountant to be able to see. You can accept their request, you can reject their request. Similarly, you can, over time, remove people from your account, for example. So you have a lot of flexibility there. Other things that I would just touch on lightly is being able to upload documents much more easily and get those to the right department. Things like updating your name and your address are now much more streamlined processes that we have here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and log out.
There was a couple of questions in the chat. One
Great.
was where do you enter the letter ID to go right to the right screen? And I just wanted to reiterate, like, we're going to show that. Monica will show what that looks like. And then also someone asked, will clients receive a new Philadelphia ID number? I put a really great link in the chat to the Philadelphia. We actually published a really great guide online. And I'll talk more about that, but it includes a little section about what's changing. And one of the things that is changing is that we're creating basically a Philadelphia tax identification number, or a FTIN.
FTIN, if you want.
FTIN. But you're basically the system that will have a 10-digit long. The new tax identification numbers are 10 digits long. So if you for existing accounts, we're basically adding zeros to the front of the numbers to make it 10 digits. So if the previous account ID was, 1112223, it's now 000112223. So, and then new accounts will have a totally unique, number. So that's just one thing to keep an eye out for. And we'll talk more about some other stuff that's changing as we get later in the presentation.
So let me just fast forward to Carol's question about the letter ID. So one thing that's really great is that if you receive a letter in the mail, you don't necessarily need to have a username and password in order to get more information about that letter. You see, I'm not logged in right now. And right on the home page, there's a section called Submissions. And under Submissions, I can go ahead and respond to a letter. Now, this only applies to letters for the type of tax accounts that we talked about earlier. By the end of 2022, it'll cover any letter that you get, but we're working on it piece by piece. I can't reiterate that enough. But if you receive a letter, you'll know it's a letter for a tax type you can use in the system because it starts with the letter L, like in the letter that I showed previously.
And our existing letters, like the current system doesn't have letter IDs. So like if you get a letter with a letter ID, it's only going to be for one of the things that you can use in the tax center.
Yeah. And if you get that letter ID, all you have to do, I'll just show it again. You go to Submissions, respond to a letter, and you go in here. Here is where you type in that letter ID that starts with L and has a couple of digits in it. And from there, it'll show you the letter, but also prompt you, it'll prompt you to do what the letter's asking you to do. So, using this first example up here, if you're getting a letter saying that you need to upload additional documents for your refund, it's not going to make you click through a bunch of screens. It'll take you right to a place where it's like, you need to upload documents for your refund, and you can upload those documents right here. So we try and make it very easy to be able to get more information about the letter that you got in the mail. Okay. Going back to the things you can do when you are not logged in. One thing that I'm going to do first is I realized that when I talked about registering with the Philadelphia Tax Center as an existing taxpayer, there's just one part of that that Rebecca touched on, but I'd like to reiterate, is that you will create a username and password in the system. With that username and password, you're going to have to log in and request a verification letter. That's really important because that verification letter, that one's coming through the regular mail. So you figure probably 5 to 10 business days to reach your house. So you'll want to do that early before tax season comes up, before you need to kind of use this more frequently. And I just wanted to highlight that part. And we're doing that for your security. And also, like Rebecca said, if any of you have registered to pay state taxes with MyPath, it's the same exact process where you set up your account and you had to wait for a paper letter. So that's just making it as secure as possible so that we know it's you signing up for your account. And another thing that I'd like to add, which we're also going to reiterate later, is that if you hear this and the first thing you're thinking is, oh, I don't know if Revenue has the right address for me, please get in touch. This is a great time to call Taxpayer Services or send us an email and update your address with Revenue. The reason for that is that if we're mailing you a letter that you need to get set up with your Philadelphia Tax Center account, we need to make sure that you actually get that letter and that it goes to the right address. So if there was one takeaway for getting set up in the Philadelphia Tax Center, I would say get in touch with Revenue, give us a call, update your address, make sure you have the right address on file so we can get you this letter and get this account set up for you come November 1st. All right, so going back to some of the things you can actually do with the website. One thing you can do is you can make payments as a guest. So I mentioned payments before, but you don't necessarily need to log in. Previously, I showed you a bunch of different ways you could make payments if you're logged into your account. And I'm definitely going to recommend that only because then you have a record of payments, you have a record of your accounts that you can easily access without having to get in touch with us. It's a nice way to see all of your letters, messages, payments, returns that you filed. However, if you just really want to quickly make a payment, you can go ahead and do it here without having to log in. In addition to making payments, one feature that's new is requesting a wage tax refund online. So now you'll be able to request that refund and upload all the necessary documents in order to do so. The Philadelphia Tax Center really walks you through it step by step for what you need. If you're eligible for a wage refund, we will be adding different types of refunds when we're in 2022 and we're adding more tax types. And we look forward to adding more refunds. But for now, we're starting off with the wage tax refund. So you have a lot of instructions and helpful information here. And also we want to highlight that you can apply for a low income refund as well. Rebecca, is there anything about this that you wanted to highlight in addition?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I mean, last year, with COVID, we, for the first time, kind of threw together a digital process that was fine. But I mean, I think we all know how crazy and overwhelming the number of refunds that came through. Like was no secret that we had, I don't even know, like over like 25 times what we would normally get, something insane. So the hope is that putting wage tax refunds into the new system, into the Philadelphia Tax Center, will make it much, much more efficient and faster for us to process and for taxpayers to get the refunds that they're due. Somebody is asking if you'll be able to submit a batch refund for employees. I know that was a feature that people really, really liked, and I think it's something that we're still in the process of figuring out what we want to do there. You can't do batch processing through the tax center, but that doesn't mean that we might not set up a side process kind of the way we did for COVID, because we know it was very, very popular with large employers. So stay tuned for that. We'll definitely make sure that the messaging's out there for folks know what options are out there, which is a really great plug to get you to sign up for both for our regular revenue newsletter, which we only send out like every other month or whenever there's anything that's really relevant for taxpayers and tax professionals. We would definitely include that kind of information in that newsletter.
Yep. All right, so going back to the homepage, the last part that I'd like to highlight is that there is a help feature for customer service, and that's useful. But in addition, Rebecca mentioned before that we've put out a guide to the Philadelphia Tax Center. And I think that's great to take a look at before this website comes out on November 1st. But of course, there's also a link to the guide here, both in English and in Spanish. So if you'd like to learn more about this system, once it comes out on November 1st, the information you need is right here. And I think it might help. There's YouTube tutorials on it. There's resources. There's a social media kit with information that I think is helpful. Rebecca's going to talk about that a bit more as well, but the guide is already kind of built in. So that's helpful if you're seeing this and feel like you need a bit more direction. Other than that, I was going to go back to the PowerPoint, Rebecca, unless there was anything else you wanted me to highlight while I'm here. Otherwise, I'm going to go back.
No, I think you can head back. Yeah, let's get back to the PowerPoint. Let's get through this.
All right, cool. Give me just a second to get that set up. And to move to the next slide. Great.
Okay, so one of the important sections so we mentioned that Philadelphia Tax Guide. One of the important sections is what's changing, which I put a link to in the chat. But there's just 3 things that we definitely want you all to know. One, the Philadelphia Beverage Tax website, if any of you have to file and pay that tax, it has its own separate file and payment website. That is going away after November 1st. You will get redirected to the new Philadelphia Tax Center. The earnings tax, which previously wasn't payable online, is now payable online, will be on November 1st through the tax center. And then also liquor tax is going all electronic. So you will, we're asking liquor taxpayers to file and pay their liquor tax through the Philadelphia Tax Center. Okay, next slide. Okay, so go ahead and flip to the next slide, Monica. So this is the guide. This is just like a couple of screenshots of the guide. I cannot stress enough how much work we put in trying to make sure that everyone is prepared for these changes. The big one is like for you is what to expect and also what to do. And that outlines most of the things that we've already kind of talked about here, which is number 1, and we're going to like reiterate it 3 times, making sure that taxpayer addresses are correct on file, because once they request that letter, it's going to go to whatever mailing address we have on file. And just setting the expectation that folks are going to have to go through that process, and it's 5 to 10 day process. So if you need to file your school income tax and it's April 14th next year, like that is not totally going to work. However, we also want to stress that you don't have to sign up for a username and password. You can just file, you can just pay that school income tax, bill without having to log in. So just heads up. The other thing that we put in this guide is a large section in Spanish. That is pretty, again, since the site is available in Spanish, we want to make sure that the support documentation is also available in Spanish. There are great YouTube videos that actually will walk you through how to register as an existing taxpayer. Those are both in English and Spanish. We have a great YouTube video with almost like another little mini demo of the website. Like, this is the Philadelphia Tax Center, and it's very exciting. And there's very inspirational music behind it. So we just, that's also in, Joseph, I think that's in English and Spanish. I can't remember. I apologize that I'm blanking on that. But we continue to add content to this page. Also, if you want to get updates solely about the Philadelphia Tax Center, you can sign up for that specific email list. That it's pretty, like, we're only talking to you about that changes to the tax center. We're not going to like use that list for anything else. We're not going to bait and switch. Like, if you sign up for an update about the tax center, that is what you're going to get. Steve Lerner wants to know, will school income tax IDs be different? Will they be zeros plus social security numbers? That's a great question. My gut says yes, but I want to confirm it. I have to think, no,
actually,
they're translating, they're changing that because they're not going to be
yeah,
socials anymore. That's right. They're
yeah.
going to be brand new so that they're more secure. That's right.
I have an answer for that really quickly. So you will not need different account numbers for your different tax types anymore. That 10-digit account number that you get when you sign up in the Philadelphia Tax Center, or if you're an existing taxpayer, it'll probably be your existing number with a couple of zeros padded at the front. You will be able to use that number and see all of your different tax types, your different tax accounts. When you look in this system, what you'll see is that technically there's different numbers associated to each tax account. That's a way that this system makes sure, whoops, what is my screen doing? Sorry. That's a way that this system makes sure that your payments get allocated to the right place, but you can use your one 10-digit account number in order to address all your different tax types. It'll be very easy for us to look up all your different tax types based on your one account number, because they're all going to be kind of housed under that one account number.
Okay. And that's a really good question though. Okay, so what should your business do? I think we've said it multiple times. Check out the guide ahead of time, especially what to expect and what to do. Sign up for the dedicated email list, and also double make sure that your mailing address is correct on file with us. And again, instructions to do that are on the guide. Is that the next? Okay, so I don't even know what the next slide. What's the next slide?
Yeah, we could talk about being sure we have the correct mailing address in file, or we could talk about the social media content.
Oh yeah. Well, we've already talked about that, making sure that there's a lot of questions about this, about account numbers in the chat. I think, you know what, Elaine and Steve and everyone, what this is really, really good feedback, that like this is a concern of yours, and making sure that we make it clear on that guide, like what's gonna be different. We will confirm that information and make sure that like we're communicating it appropriately. So for example, Steve just asked, clients that only file school tax, then when will they get a new ID number? Well, they need to sign up for the tax center, right? Like they would need to they would want to sign up for a username and password for the Philadelphia Tax Center, and then they would get that information through that process.
Yep.
For a taxpayer who only files an S1, do they continue to use their SSN, or will they be assigned an ID? I would encourage them to file electronically and sign up for the tax center and get a new ID and get an ID. And just for clarification, like we're not like, the new tax center launches on November 1st, but that doesn't mean that like immediately the old system is gone, right? We want, I understand that old taxpayers are older and will not do this, but honestly, like it is so much easier to do it online. And with this system, it's so much easier. It's so much less confusing than the paper forms. And I think it's great that CPAs will have to do it for them, because then the CPA has a great client. But I mean, I lost my train of thought. I don't remember what I was talking about.
So we're discussing when it comes to folks who only file for the school income tax. I think maybe we can get back to you with a good answer about if you would need your new ID in order to.
Yeah, like the old system isn't just going to go away, and if they weren't filing on the old system already and they're only filing on paper, we'll have to like get back to you. But Steve, I get it. Thank you. There will be kind of a grace period for folks who want to file and pay online with the old system. We know that not everybody will do that. Paper forms aren't going away. We'll always still accept paper. We will still always accept in-person payments. We will still accept cash payments. So that won't ever really go away, not in a city that has the digital divide that it has, and not in a city that, like, we just, for folks who are unbanked. So that's the reality. If you have clients who are never, ever, not in a million years going to use something online, that's fine. They don't have to change. But for folks who want to do things a little bit more efficiently, a little bit more securely, want to make sure things are done quickly, like that, this is going to be the way to go. And I think over time it will all shift. It'll eventually shift, as I mean, the vast majority of returns are filed electronically now. That's kind of the reality, or in some form they're filed electronically. SIT is one that I really, really hope we get to convert some folks over. Why don't you hit the next slide, Monica?
Yeah, and one thing I would say is we can get back to you with the exact specifics of if you need the new ID number to file.
Yeah, and how that will work. We'll make that clear. We'll definitely put an article in the guide about that particular topic, because there's a lot of chatter about it here in the comments.
And did you want to talk about the mailing address, or did you want to talk about the social media content?
We already talked about the mailing address.
All right, let's do social media.
Okay, so if you are in a business organization, or you are in a community group, or you are in any sort of professional organization, we're really, really hope that you're willing to steal all of our content. Like I said, we've published lots of articles, we've done blog posts, we've done videos, including Spanish content. So if you're someone who works with a lot of folks, or you are in a group that shares information, please share our information. It's so helpful to us, and the reach is just so much further when it comes from you. Also, if you are in a community group or a professional organization and you want the Department of Revenue to speak to your group on any topic, whether it's like real estate tax assistance, or if it's more about business taxes, or it's specifically about the new Philadelphia tax center, please reach out to vicky.riley@phila.gov, and we will get you on the calendar. We will show up in person. We will do things online. We will table, we can speak at any length. So we're here to help you and help your organizations know what to expect and how to do what is important, or how to do what you need to do. I think that is, okay. So I guess that my final words before we get to any other additional comments or questions is that, we know that all IT projects have hiccups, but we are doing our best to minimize any stress for taxpayers or tax professionals. I think we're working really, really hard to get as much information out there as possible. We will probably schedule more of these webinars if you think any of your colleagues would benefit, or any of your any other neighbors would benefit. Keep a lookout for more of those, more of these types of events. And I mean, we know that change isn't easy, but it is really what's necessary to move us forward, and to move us forward to a modern tax system that's going to better serve both taxpayers and the administration of taxes and our staff.